Tonight, we're making the news. Three friends sitting down on a supernatural news Wednesday night. Conversations in the dark. Dave Schrader, Sweet Tea, Greg. We'll talk about some of the things that have been going on in the past week, but not in a regular format. This will be more discussion. I hope you enjoy it. This is something a little different, and you deserve the very best. So we've decided to bring it to you. No scripts, nothing rehearsed. Just three idiots blabbering all night long. You're welcome, America and the rest of the world. Good evening, my darklings. Thank you so much for joining us. And I don't know where that screen suddenly showed up from. That's really weird. What is happening here? Why are there many different screens that I'm not posting appearing on this program? Things are getting weird. It's like the supernatural demands to be heard. It's forcing its way into our computer systems, man. We got a lot to chat about. I have a couple things I want to mention up front before I bring on the rest of the team. Some stuff I'm excited and proud to be a part of. Obviously, we are getting closer, folks. We are just a week and a half away from the premiere of Paranormal Mysteries, coming to Beacon TV September 26th, and then every Friday until Halloween night, our season finale. 6 brand new episodes, 6 amazing investigations. We begin with a 2-part episode, Ashmore Estates in Illinois, and we follow it up with the R Theater. Then we're off to the Pauley Jail in Alabama, the site of, believe it or not, Shane Pittman's first official paranormal encounter as an investigator. We head off to the Sorrel Weed House in Georgia to reinvestigate the history and story of the Sorrel Weed House. Over the years, many different teams have investigated and many different people have come forward with the truth. Well, we weren't satisfied with the truth. So we went back in and re-examined the case, re-examined the stories, and re-examined the hauntings. And I think we came up with an interesting take on it. I hope you'll tune in and check that out. Then, as we wrap up our season, Hospital on College Hill in West Virginia. And then an episode that took a very strange and weird twist, the Ura Shrine in Tennessee. In the middle of Tennessee, in this beautiful little area, there is this strange little Shindo temple that just appeared. Well, it didn't really appear. It was put there. But the owner allows everyone from every belief system and every walk of life to come there and worship and do as they please. But he noticed that in keeping the balance there all these years, something has shifted. So we were called in to see if we could understand what was going on and see if we could make sense of it. And there was a lot involved in this episode. So that's a look at the season. I have Cindy, Keza, and Shane Pittman joining me right here Monday night live. We're going to talk about the fun of being on the Holzer Files together, 28 Days Haunted, Ghosts of Devil's Perch. We might even talk about the Dead Files. Who knows? Anything goes on this Monday night show. But we will be discussing our new program on Stream Beacon TV, and I hope you'll check it out. If you haven't checked it out yet, go to streambeacontv.com. One more thing I'm very proud of, and I'll just promote this a couple times here because it's coming up. Last year, I spent the better part of the year filming a documentary, a different type of paranormal documentary. And I was very pleased that we got to kind of really center it a lot around the state of Minnesota and talk to a mentor of mine, the wonderful and amazing Echo Bodine. I got to discuss everything from UFOs to ghosts, monsters, and more. Scott Walter from America Unearthed is a part of the program and weighs in. We examine just a lot of really cool stuff and the people behind these stories. And I was really pleased to be a part of that. It is called Outer Edge. And we were just picked up by the Twin Cities Film Festival, and it will begin. The premiere for it will be on Saturday, October 18th. It is going to be very limited in tickets that are available for it. If you're interested, email me, Dave at paranormal60.com. When tickets go on sale, and I believe that is next week at some point, I will send you the link. Jump in and grab your tickets as quick as you can and be a part of it. There'll be a red carpet premiere. Then we'll also be doing a 30-minute or so Q&A after the film, but you'll be amongst the very first in the world to get a chance to see The Outer Edge. And if all goes well with this documentary, I'm hoping perhaps we can spin it off into a series and continue to examine these stories and the people that have lived them. So that's what's going on in my world. That's the opening of the news, because that's news, right? There's a bunch of cool stuff going on. But let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. Joining me now, the paranormal detective and author of many books on all facets of the strange and supernatural. It is the one and only Greg Lawson. Good evening, Greg.
Hey, old buddy. All kinds of facets.
Yeah, facets. Many of the
Facets.
Yeah. And also joining us, ladies and gentlemen, one of your favorites, not necessarily this show or any others that I'm aware of, but on Only Feet. She has got so many subscribers. It's crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, Sweetie.
It's called Feet Finder, but thank you.
Oh, Feet Finder. There's Wiki Feet as well. Did you know that?
Of course, yes.
Oh, these are new things to me. I did not know.
Yeah, new.
Listen, we're starting off talking, of course, about some of the projects that I'm a part of, things that are going on. But let's talk about Greg and Sweet Tea. Greg, what's going on in your world? Have you got a new book you're working on? Any new projects?
Hey, buddy. How you doing, man? It's good to be here.
I think we already did that part.
Yeah.
Dave
from the meeting this morning, I'm just reading the script. I somehow doubled.
I said it's unscripted.
Oh, all right. So, I'm actually working on several books, and that's why I haven't had a book out this year, because I keep skipping around, but I'm doing one. The working title is The Interviews. And what I'm in the process of doing is filing FOIA requests for my interviews that I did when I was a mental health officer in Austin, after the dehospitalization of the state hospital and the state schools. We started having a lot of calls of people, that were having experiences, and the amount of interviews I did and investigations I did on people, primarily alien abduction. There's some possession stuff. There's a lot of conspiracy theory stuff on nanotechnology and stuff being put into people's blood and things like that. So it was a very interesting couple of years when we were trying to recover from the folks that were trying to do good for everybody that was incarcerated at the state hospital that hadn't committed a crime. So they pushed them out on the street, and that's what you see today. Yeah. So that's the one I'm really interested in.
Yeah. Put all the other books aside. This one needs to be written. I think that's fascinating, being able to get an insider's look at a paranormal investigator, but an actual law enforcement official, mental health specialist who is there and walk through these. Without giving anything big away, were there ever instances and moments where you felt like, not just, I believe they believe this is true, which we've all had those instances, but did you ever encounter somebody possessed or believe they were possessed that you felt, wow, I think this person might legitimately be dealing with that, or alien abduction, or other strange conspiratorial issues?
So, God, it was, I don't know how long ago it was. It was on Coast. I think you interviewed me on Coast a decade ago, something like that. And you asked me there on Coast, did you ever, it might have been on Darkness, but did you ever, run into somebody that was truly evil? Well, I was working at the sheriff's office at the time, so I could not share that information. I was just kind of like, Now that I'm not restricted, I have no filter. I can say this kind of thing. So the only interviews that I'm going to share, and it will be at least one book, if not two, is going to be the ones that I was just like, what? It's something that I could not disprove. So you're certified as a mental health officer. For those of you that are listening and care, law enforcement agencies in most states, especially in Texas, have a certification called a mental health officer. And that mental health officer has to go through a series of training and then a test to get certified as a mental health officer. And then they are the ones that is called out whenever we have an individual that is experiencing psychosis, deterioration, auditory, visual hallucinations, that sort of stuff. And so we relieve the uniformed officer from the scene of the person that typically is causing some sort of disturbance, or their family is concerned about them. They leave, we show up in plain clothes and speak with them. And we go through a series of standardized questions that we talk to them about and see how their cognitive level is and see what's going on with them. We also have a way that we can look at their background. So normally things would be covered by HIPAA for medical stuff. We actually can circumvent that and see what their diagnosis is and that sort of thing. And so we would get called out on these things. And you're actually part of what's called the CIT. It's a critical incident team. So you have a critical incident, you go out, then you determine what's going on with this person and whether or not, now that the law has changed, they have to be an immediate danger to themselves or others. And if that's the case, then you can transport them to a crisis unit or a state hospital or a private hospital, where they will be put into the hospital for 48 hours for monitoring, and they would see a psychiatrist. At that point, they'll go through a battery of tests, and they will either determine that they will keep them there using an order of protective custody, or whether they will be released. And so doing that, it's pretty odd. And the reason I'm going down this road is I actually went to a book signing of an individual who wrote a series of books that ended up being a TV show. And this TV show was fairly popular, and I won't share the TV show, but anyway, listen to her talk. That gives part of it away. And decided to get her book and got up there and was going to get her to sign the book. And people were asking her questions, at any book signing. And I was like, hey, could somebody, she was talking about Men in Black, all the men in black that come to your house, force their way into your house without a warrant, search your house without a warrant, abduct you from your house, take you to an undisclosed location, possibly give you medication, and incarcerate you there. Men in Black. Well, that's exactly what mental health officers do. That's exactly what we do. It's not a crime. We're not investigating a crime. So we don't need search warrants. We get there, we have a individual that calls us there, like a family member, like I said, or they're causing a disturbance, make contact with this person, and you don't leave. You have to talk to this person. This person needs to cooperate, and we're going to ask you a series of questions and determine whether you're experiencing psychosis or not. And if you are, then we're going to check your house and see what's in your toilet. Yeah. Going to see what's in your refrigerator, see what's in your sink. Okay. Yeah. People that are experiencing psychosis.
Hey, Bob, we got a floater.
Yeah.
They're very buoyant, it appears.
They put weird things in their toilets. Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
And so all of that culminates in abducting them. We place them in protective custody, and we take them to an undisclosed location, because we can't tell their family or anybody else where they're going because of HIPAA. And so, yeah. And so it's very can be very confusing for somebody who's already having some cognitive issues. And we take them there, and if they are highly agitated and they've been there before, or they have a diagnosis, the psychiatrist that admits them at that point will then look at that and make sure that their blood levels are correct, and possibly give them, some medication that might slow them down a little bit. So everything she said was true. I said, so is it possible that a man in black doesn't know he's a man in black? And that's what he's doing. And she gets a hold of my hand real gingerly. She looks at me, and I'm going to try not to do it too loud. And she goes, "Wake up. You're a puppet." And I was like, okay,
no.
thank you. That was great. All right. Go on out of there.
So my question was, did you ever meet somebody you thought was possessed? So obviously,
or
author-
abducted.
Right.
Yeah. And in this particular case, it was just really interesting because I had never thought of it that way.
Mhm.
You know, maybe that control mechanism does work through other people, and a man in black is doing whatever the control factor is in their bidding, you know, like being controlled from a spaceship or something like that. So my answer to you is there are cases that I worked that what they told me I could not disprove, and it did not make sense. And there were secondary and tertiary forms of evidence of what this could be. In other words, like Bigfoot prints, right? As an example, that's not evidence of Bigfoot. That is just a print that looks like a giant foot. That could be something man-made, could be something naturally formed, or it could be.
Well, then let me pose a question this way.
Yeah.
So in all of that, did you ever meet somebody who you actually thought was possessed?
Yes.
Okay. Or was being abducted by aliens?
So
No, yes was good. That's a good answer, right?
Okay, there we go. Hey, sweet tea, how you doing?
I'm all right.
I just, well, yeah, I don't mean to put you out there for that full ride, but I just,
if I did, Dave, I would have a TV show. I would have a movie. I would have.
You're the kind of guy that would bury that headline out of concern for people.
How would he possibly do that?
Because he was under, he was working with law enforcement at that time, and he couldn't say certain things. He couldn't do certain things. You can't always act on your beliefs just because it's a belief. So
maybe I was being controlled by the UFOs.
Maybe.
Or the Men in Black.
Yeah.
You just don't know. Yeah, there was one particular one that this lady was she was her behavior was incredibly disturbing.
Greg, you know, we agreed not to talk about that one.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Hey T, what's going on?
I'm Man in Black in there. Yeah, with my
that was good.
Yeah.
You know, there's a little flash thing that you can click on there too.
Yeah,
not just a flashlight.
I don't know. I don't have one. I can't afford it. I'm just a man in a gray t-shirt, so not quite the same thing.
Yeah.
So that book, you're working on one or two of those. Focus on it, man. That's going to be fascinating. I think giving people an insider's look into these cases, whether they are just mentally under duress or whether they are truly having these experiences. And I've talked to police officers over 20 years that have had just very unsettling experiences that they, you know, they're like, listen, people on drugs can do remarkable things that seem super, right? That seem supernatural. But I can't say that it was this or that, but I did. As a matter of fact, I think on my old Theater of the Mind spots that we used to do, we actually talked about police officers who were called to a home, and the person that they called was out of control. And it took, I think, 4 or 5 of them to hold down a very small person. And they believe fully that, at least the couple of guys I spoke to, that this was in fact a possession, and that was taking place.
There was one particular one that I got called to. She was a member of a charismatic church. There was a group of people at her house trying to do a prayer and cast the demon out of her. And she was absolutely a nasty person. She was, what I mean by that, just mean, smug, condescending, ugly, just nasty, growling, just.
Wait, are you saying this as if you knew
not
this
you,
person before?
Not you.
No, that is me to a T.
That was a different situation.
Are you saying this with knowledge of this woman before you went to this place, or just in this experience she was just?
No, when I got there,
Okay.
So I get a call. They had been trying to cast demons out of this woman for a few hours, and it was getting late at night. And there was 6 or 7 people there. I don't remember how many were there, and they're all speaking in tongues and trying to cast out the demon, and she's flopping around and yelling and screaming. And I'm always like, it's one of those things, right? I get there and I see this, and I'm like, oh, she's flopping around on the floor, and she's flopping. They put her on the couch. She's flopping around on the couch. She gets off, flopping around on the floor, yelling at them and everything. My question was, why don't you just get up and get out of the room if these people are harassing you, but she wasn't. So it's like, if I was a demon, would I just stay there? Would I get up and leave, and go harass somebody else that wasn't following me around?
Hey, screw you guys. I don't need this abuse.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but she could have very well been mentally ill. She could have very well had some sort of histrionic thing that was going on with her, and she's just acting out, trying to cause attention to herself. There's all kinds of motivations why somebody might do that is not truly either having an active delusion or hallucinations, or if you believe in possession, then that acted out pretty well. And it's hard to tell. Like oftentimes people that have these personality disorders will, like, let's say, fake fainting, right? And they'll just lay there and they won't answer any questions or anything. But you take this knuckle right here and you give them a sternum rub, all of a sudden their eyes open. They're like, stop. I was like, oh, you woke up with that. You're going to talk to me now, kind of thing. And so it's like, yeah, I knocked the demon right out of you just with this middle knuckle on your sternum. It's like, wow, look at that. You don't need to pray. I can just knock the demon out of you by rubbing on your sternum.
Actually sounds quite comforting.
Yeah, it's very interesting on that sort of stuff. So anyway, it's the ones that all the contemporary investigation and techniques to evaluate somebody just completely fail, and it doesn't make sense. And their story matches up with physical evidence that they should not know about, or they should not have been able to cause, because the trained people say that they never left the room. Yet they know about this other thing that happened that they shouldn't know about, or they did something that left some sort of evidence at another location, when all evidence that we can tell, they never left that room. So it's like, what? How did that happen? How did they know that sort of stuff? And that's what, kind of drives a lot of this, because, people are like, did you ever find somebody that's possessed? And to prove that is incredibly difficult, unless you have somebody.
Unless their eyes are changing, their physical form is changing. There are some people that say you can physically see the face morph and become something else. I'm not impressed by the voices, because I think too many people have been influenced by that from movies. But
we've all seen Rich Little. It's fine.
Exactly. Wow. Way to date yourself. Rich Little. That's crazy. Well, what about you, T? I know you are one of the co-hosts of the Monsters Lounge, which can be heard right here on the Paranormal 60 podcast network every Tuesday night, Wednesday, for those of you that listen to the audio version of it. What other projects? Do you have anything else going in this? Is there an element of this field that you'd like to maybe dig a little deeper into?
Nope. No, just kidding. We've got our Patreon going on. Not necessarily paranormal, but Jenny and I are going to be watching some really terrible movies and talking about them in depth. It's a lot of fun.
I'd love to join you with that.
You should.
I love watching movies and then giving reviews.
Yeah. I saw that movie. It was a flash of beauty, and boy, was it taking me deep into the world of Sasquatch. I can already kind of tell you how he's going to do that.
Yeah, I figure as much.
He's a catch.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're going to be doing that?
All right. Yeah, we're doing that. We're putting one of those out once a month. But listen, I started a class with Sarah Lemos, and then life happened. So I'm going to pick back up with Pathways to Spirit in October, and I'm very excited about that. Jenny and I are going to do that together. and be superheroes and crush all of you minions.
Oh, I don't.
Wow.
I'm going to go on a limb, knowing Sarah personally. I don't believe that's part of her curriculum,
Oh,
teaching
it's
you how to
all about
crush.
transmutation. I can
Yeah.
do it. I'll figure it out.
Can you tell her to give me a call?
No,
Tressa, give Greg a call.
no,
Thanks.
absolutely not.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. I tried, Greg. You heard me.
Hmm.
Tressa, so I had, I hope you don't mind that I'm addressing you by your God-given name.
That's fine.
But have you ever considered,
Hmm?
you have a unique perspective on neurodivergence?
Oh, boy, howdy.
And have you ever considered, I mean, we go to a lot of conferences every year, and there are a lot of neurodivergent investigators and experiencers, and I don't think their voices are being heard. There are people that are not neurodivergent that are making big claims saying, well, people with autism are automatically already plugged into the supernatural system and psychic ability. And we take it as such. And listen, I'm not trying to belittle anybody that's dealing with neurodivergence, but I've also listened to the crystalline children and the indigo children and rainbow children. And it seems to me that there might be an element of humanity wanting to make sense of things they can't wrap their head around,
I
and
fully,
mental issues that you're
neuro,
not comfortable with.
it's not mental, it's neuro.
Right,
It's
but
a
I
neuro.
was meaning overall, even in some instances, people that are dealing with mental deficiencies that are out on the street, that are homeless, that are talking to
Oh, yeah.
voices, hearing things like that. We automatically, either assume they're crazy or they're not, and they are the truly gifted. And I just thought it might be interesting to have somebody like you uh, take a more focused approach at talking and interviewing people to see if there's any commonality, so we can actually start to see if there is a bigger picture being painted. Would that ever be something that would be of interest to you? Or
Yes, I was actually thinking about putting together a project much like that about a year ago, but life happens. But you know what? I feel like a lot of people, I'm autistic, if I haven't said that a billion times before. I feel like a lot of people give us too much credit. We just see patterns. We notice things audibly, uh, visually, that a lot of people look over or don't bother with. It's it's not so much that we're seeking it out, it's just right there in front of our faces, and you guys are too busy with your boring stuff to notice it. We're just
way to single us out, us normies.
That's right.
Whatever.
That's right.
Well, no, listen, life's going to happen. Stop with your BS excuses and get on it, because that's a book that needs to be
No.
written, or a documentary that needs to be filmed. But you need to start interviewing these people that are there, that I think they want answers as much as the rest of us. And I think it'd be great to have somebody that actually lives in that world that can help us maybe make sense of it. And so I'm tasking you with that. You have, let's say, October 2026 would be a great time to release that book.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm on it, Chief.
Thanks. Perfect. Yeah, I talk to more and more people that are along that line, that they have family members that are neurodivergent or dealing with things that they think makes them immediately gifted into the spiritual. And sometimes I see those children and young adults nodding as though they believe it, and other times I see them kind of roll their eyes and shrug, like,
Yeah.
like kind of you just brought up. I think maybe you're trying to pigeonhole something that isn't there,
I would
and just
love
to make sense of
nothing
it.
more than to have superpowers, but I think, like I said, it's just a different way of focusing than neurotypicals do.
Okay.
And I think it should be explored more. I think there's a
Agreed.
lot to discover there that a lot of people are just not even thinking about.
I would love, and if I know we have listeners around the world. One thing I'm fascinated by: if you are someone who is visually impaired but still witness paranormal activity, I would love to know about it. Email me, Dave at paranormal60.com, tell me your stories. I'd love to share it on an upcoming episode and maybe even include your contact info. Maybe we'll have you on the program to discuss that.
I have a
And I know there
question.
are a couple of visually impaired paranormal groups out there.
Yeah.
So I would love for them to reach out to us as well. But go ahead.
Do you mean specifically paranormal experiences that are visual, since you're asking about blind people, or just
Yes.
in general?
No, if they're having, I have people that have spoken to me at length about different elements of, I was not born blind, but I went blind shortly thereafter. However, I have dreams of dead people that come to me and talk, and I can visually see them. It's accessing a different optical nerve or whatever. And I'd love to know more about that. But are there also people that maybe the acuity of their vision is impaired, but it allows them to see auras or see light or maybe portals or vortexes, things that others wouldn't notice. That stuff fascinates me. We do need to take a break. We're going to come back. We'll talk more and we'll discuss the loss of a legend in the Bigfoot field. And that was news to all of us this past week. We'll chat about that and our good friend, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, when we return right here to the Paranormal 60 News.
How are you, Darklings? This is Mark Lanou, innovator, musician, world traveler, and no stranger to the paranormal. Come take a journey with me through this place we call life by picking up my new book, Reality Was Once the Tapestry of the Dreamer. It is available at Barnes & Noble online and will soon be available through other vendors. Get your copy by following the link in this ad or by visiting my official website at markallenlanou.com.
Welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for being here. A few weeks ago, Greg and I were in attendance at the Phenomicon event in Vernal, Utah. And sadly, two of our favorite speakers were not there. George Knapp from Coast to Coast AM and WLAS, I think Las Vegas News, was supposed to be on hand along with George Norrie. And George pulled out. We didn't know what was going on or why. Dr. Jeff Meldrum had to pull out, and we didn't know or understand why. Eventually, it was released that Dr. Meldrum had suffered a medical emergency and was unable to attend. And that was the end of it. Now, we know that he has dealt with some medical issues in the past. I believe it was not even quite a year ago. He was on a Bigfoot cruise and had to be airlifted from the cruise in the middle of the ocean to mainland to be looked at and examined. So we were hoping for the very best for our friend. George Knapp, as we now know, was selected to report to Congress and talk about the UAP phenomena and some of the footage that they've uncovered, including that unbelievable piece of footage we discussed last week with the what was the name of the missile, the type of missile that struck the UFO, Greg, if you unmute yourself? Wasn't Tomahawk, it was, what was it? Was it a Tomahawk?
No. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I can't remember, but it was a
Yeah.
very powerful, very destructive missile that struck this UFO and bounced off of it, and little pieces broke off of it, and it just kept flying, and so did the three little pieces of the UFO. It's very strange. But George Knapp went there to talk about that in Congress. And then sadly, it was just announced that Dr. Jeff Meldrum passed away. Dr. Meldrum, of course, being an actual doctor, lecturer, speaker, somebody who was highly regarded in the science field, stepped out of his comfort zone to discuss the possibilities or probabilities of something like Sasquatch. He was one of the more grounded and down-to-earth speakers. He was very friendly. He was objective. He was skeptical, but also a believer in the abilities that creatures around our planets have that we just cannot possibly grasp. And he always brought common sense, logic, and never really talked down to anybody, in my opinion, regarding this. And I was lucky enough to interview him a few times on my shows. I saw him earlier this year at a conference with Dr. Maria Mayer, and we got a chance to hang out and talk. And he has left the earth too early. I guess the announcement is that he actually went in due to a medical emergency, found out that he was suffering from a brain tumor and was gone within 5 days. So it wasn't something that he had been, I guess, keeping from the masses. It wasn't something along those lines. It was, I guess, just as big a surprise to his whole family. But he died with his loved ones around him in hospice care, and they were able to be there with him and see him through that. That's going to have a deep impact on the field of cryptozoology for a while, I feel, because he was one of those. He wasn't one of the wing nuts out there that we love to see on shows that everything's a Bigfoot, everything is this, everything is that. And he wasn't one of those kind of guys that likes to squash the dream. He really seemed to walk that balance beam very well, of living in the what if and also realizing the science and what the importance of that would be for this. Had you had a chance to work with Dr. Meldrum or speak with him much before, Greg?
The conference before last, I met him. We had lunch or dinner, and I got to talk to him on the phone. It was shortly after that, so this would have been 2023, maybe 2022, somewhere around there, and he was working on some sort of TV project, and he had called me twice about evidence recovery, because he wanted to kind of branch over into not only doing what would be considered forensic recovery of material, but also latent recovery of material. And so he contacted me. He said, I don't have any experience in this, and this is what I'm looking at. And that was the thing that I really enjoyed about him. The first time I saw him speak live was at Phenomenon, like I said, several years ago. And you sit there, and if you're a Bigfoot skeptic or Bigfoot cynic, and it's like, oh, okay, there's no such thing. When you listen to someone like him, who is a tenured professor that studies that particular discipline, and he says, based on my training and based on my experience, that a population of 500 of these large creatures could very easily be living in North America, and we would never see them. Or if we did see them, it would be very transient, very quick, a shadow, a streak, or whatever, because this has evolved in their social groups of staying away from humans. And that was one of the things I always kind of tied back when I was in Alaska. I was up north of the Brooks Range. We were doing mapping exercise up there. On our way back, the vehicle that I was in had a problem with its governor. It had a diesel engine. It's called a Gamma Goat. And the diesel engine had a problem with the governor, and I couldn't get it to go over like 12 miles an hour. So I couldn't keep up with the other part of the convoy. There was like, I don't know, eight other vehicles in this convoy. So my boss, my lieutenant, said, hey, just keep trucking on, and we'll see you in Anchorage in a couple of weeks. And I was like, all right. So we continued on, and we stopped off at this one particular village, and I believe it was an Inuit village. And we were trying to get gas, or we were trying to get diesel. And so go talk to the people. There's like a big community building there, and they had above ground storage tanks. And we were trying to figure out how to buy gas from them, because it's just for the tribe, right? It's just for their group. And the tribe elder came out and said, yes, we'll give you some gas tomorrow. And we're like, oh, we need to get going. Well, tomorrow, you have to stay. And so they had what's called a potlatch for us. And the whole town came out, and, we talked to the kids about being soldiers, and they looked at our vehicle and climbed around on our vehicle, and they gave us a bunch of little gifts, and we had dinner with them, and it was really, really cool. During that time, they were talking about the separation of cultures, the difference between their culture and the American culture and the Russian culture that was in Alaska prior to that. And then he went back to talk about the Tornets, which are basically big hairy men in Alaska. And he said, however long ago, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, these Indian groups actually traded with these creatures. And these would be tall, 7-foot tall, hairy men. And they had a kind of a relationship kind of thing where they would trade yearly with whatever it is that they were doing. But one of the young teenage, however they age, hairy men stole one of their canoes or an akio or some sort of water conveyance from this Inuit people, and they killed him. And that was the line in the sand of when the hairy men went off into the woods and they never saw them again. It just makes you wonder, was that 2,000 years ago? Was it 10,000 years ago? I don't know. But that is the oral tradition of where the Bigfoot or where the Sasquatch went. And Nanticoke, that was the other, Nanticoke and Tornit is the word that he used. And I always thought that was fascinating because it makes kind of a lot of sense when you then look, like, we're not going to go around humans. Humans are dangerous. Stay away from them.
Yeah. The scariest part of the paranormal are people. Everyone knows that.
And it could be the lead paint, black mold, and asbestos in the buildings too, but who am I to judge? You sent me a story, Sweetie, that some others had sent me along the way regarding this strange find that took place in, was it Venezuela?
Panama.
And here's why I pulled the plug on the news today, to be honest with you, in the same fashion. There's a lot of stories. First of all, we joked around about it a few weeks ago, but it seems like a lot of the stories are just repeating themselves and really not even taking it any further in the discussion. And then many of the stories, as I'm chasing down rabbit holes and looking into things and having people go, man, that was a great story. I tried to dig up more information about it, Dave, and I actually found this, and the germination for it began on like a site like The Onion or The Chive or some, non-reputable place for our kind of news. So I decided what I'd like to do is take kind of a step back for a while. Now, the footage that is out there of this being, right, he found this little thing, and it was very much like the Venom symbiote from the movies. This kind of thing cracked open, and this little being is inside, and he's showing it under like a little bell jar, and it's moving, and like little tentacles are reaching out, and he's picking it up at some points. And I'm looking at it thinking, am I looking at a hermit crab out of its habitat? Am I looking at something that we normally would have no idea what it looks like, so that when we'd see it, it would be disturbing and strange? And I just realized how hard it is to differentiate and disseminate what is a legitimately decent or interesting story to tell. And the mainstream press is picking up stories like this and not vetting either. You're finding them on websites and taking them into different places. So I'm trying to rationalize how we can move forward with doing the news, but actually bringing you stories worth reporting on. Some of them are fun just to talk about and make us think and open our paradigms to possibilities. But I also want this to be more of a place where you can go to hear things that are really fascinating, that are in the news, that are being discussed. Now, with that said, Sweetie and the host of the Monsters Lounge, you look at that footage, you saw that. What do you make of that little creature? I mean, is that something you think is truly alien in nature, or are we?
Listen, I almost didn't send it to you because every source was TikTok. It's just this guy's TikTok feed. And I was like, okay, but where's the story? And watching the video, I'm like, I don't trust anything anymore. Everything can be manipulated with AI. I don't know if that's just like, because I didn't watch a lot of his videos, but the videos I did see, it was just static, and then it would move just a little bit. That's got to be easy to manipulate with AI. I don't know. That's my biggest issue is
Like I said, you
AI.
weren't the only one that sent that to me. So it was
Right.
an interesting story and was capturing the attention, but
I
that's
can
that's real quickly. That's where I wanted to kind of take this part of the discussion is, we are at a point where our cameras are high definition, are able to capture imagery, and that's what a lot of people's bone of contention with alien craft and Bigfoot and other creatures. Why is it still blurry? Why are we still getting that? Then when you get clear shots, well, it's obviously too clear. It's been photoshopped. It's fake. What would it look like if we legitimately found these things and were able to photograph and videotape them in 4K or 1080p or something that was, that was not necessarily available to us in the past? So I want to pick up with that part of our discussion when we return. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more right after this.
Have you ever felt like something or someone was trying to tell you something? That inner nudge, that quiet whisper from the universe, with intuition sharpened by years of spiritual connection and a deep-rooted gift. Winnie Schrader delivers readings that are compassionate, insightful, and shockingly accurate. Whether you're facing a crossroads healing from heartache, or just curious what the cards reveal, Winnie creates a safe, sacred space to explore your journey. This isn't fortune cookie fluff. This is honest, intuitive guidance from someone who's helped hundreds find clarity, closure, and confidence. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Book your session now at lovelotustarot.com and take control of your journey. That's lovelotustarot.com. Winnie's sessions are personal, powerful, and often life-changing. That's lovelotustarot.com.
Don't wait. The holidays are upon us. And if you're looking for the perfect gift, you can buy gift cards or gift readings to Love Lotus Tarot with Winnie and give the perfect gift of insight and knowledge. What do the cards have to say? Find out for yourself. Go check out lovelotustarot.com. All right, we're back. Before the commercial, I posed the question, what would it look like if we uncovered these things? Now, my initial reaction is, if I'm on TikTok and I'm showing this creature that I found and it is not like anything else that's been seen, and I've got pretty compelling video. Greg, you've been in the military. How soon should he expect a knock on his door from somebody coming to make sure that there is not a contagion that has landed on our planet, or that this thing gets taken away or these videos get taken down quickly?
Within hours. Yeah. So, and for what it's worth, I'm pretty sure I have some potatoes in my little potato bin in the kitchen that look pretty much the same, and kind of, they have little things that are growing out.
You
of
should
it,
throw those out.
So, hey, just trim them off. It's fine. Just trim them off. And that the stuff that you were looking at as far as on the TikTok video, it looks like to me you could make some really delicious alien calamari with that.
It was very small. It would be very.
Hey, Dave.
One or two chews, you're done. I look at these things and I think it's fascinating. It's interesting. Man, I want it to be real. I see the footage of these beings and Bigfoot. And right now, listen, for somebody, listen, Bigfoot doesn't exist and all these videos are fake. And every week there is some new startling piece of video evidence. Some of them are unbelievably good. Mm-hmm. And I think that looks so much better than just AI. It looks humanistic in the way that it actually blinks and twitches. And that's really remarkable to me. And then I go online and I look up footage that some 18-year-old kid has put together and he's saying, oh, I created this for a sci-fi class. And I look at the imagery and I'm like, holy cow, this 18-year-old has figured out how to create something that's better than what we saw in the movies. A perfect example, if you go look on YouTube, there was a gentleman who is a rookie, I guess, at this. He looked at the Rogue One movie, and at the end, spoiler alert, there's a cameo by Princess Leia, thanks to CGI and her actual daughter, Billie Lourd, who was stood in her place. And then they kind of CGI'd young Carrie Fisher's face on her, and it looked like it was disconcerting. It looked like a rubbery mask.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they did the same with Grand Moff Tarkin, Peter Cushing. Yes, Peter Cushing, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, played Grand Moff Tarkin. Anyway,
Grandma
um,
Tarkin.
they played him more into the dark and it hit it well, but Carrie Fisher looked very rubbery. Some other guy, like within a month of the movie coming out, popped up his version that looked amazing. So I just go by the fact that it's so hard to trust our eyes now. It's so hard to trust what is being given to us. And I know that there's software out there that can detect these things, but I don't know how many generations removed from it can be. I mean, if I create a very compelling piece of video and I run it on my computer and then I videotape that piece of footage with my phone and I give you that piece of evidence, if you run it through, is it going to be able to tell you
I think
what's
it
real
would.
or what's not? Because usually the software is made to look at the original to separate the layers. And if I'm videotaping a video of it, I don't know that it has that same technical capabilities. And there are people out there much smarter than I am that can email me and answer that as well. Dave at paranormal60.com. I'd love to hear from you and we'll share it on a future episode. But so much of what's going on out there is fascinating, exciting, but I'm also realizing we are either truly at the dawn of a new awakening because of the footage of Bigfoot, aliens, UFO, UAP craft, psychic phenomena that seems to be coming out, and even ghosts. I don't know where I stand on any of it anymore. It's very confounding to me, and I feel like it's muddied the waters so much that at points it's hard for me to really enjoy and have that sense of wonderment and child awe when I see a new piece of footage that comes out. And
I had
does that
this
affect
thought.
you? Yeah.
I had this thought like not even a month ago. I mean, I have it a lot, but like I don't trust anything anymore. I'm not smart enough to tell the difference between AI and an actual video footage. And anytime I get excited about something, I know I can't be because I know that there are very talented people out there that are trying to make a buck off of views or whatever, and they'll get that buck. They'll get my buck because I want to see it, but I don't trust anything anymore. And I'll still believe whatever you tell me to believe because I want to, but in my gut, I just don't feel like anything really clear. I'm gonna say fake. If it's a little blurry, I'll be like, that's someone who was in a rush. They were not setting up their cameras. They were just like, oh wow, this is weird. I should get this. If they even have that thought, that's the only time I'm gonna like fully believe any sort of video evidence is real.
Right. Isn't
Because
that funny? The most believable to you is the most blurry and out of context
yeah,
footage. Now, with TikTok, the way this is launched and so many people are turning to TikTok, the ones that intrigue me, and there's some police videos, some cops that show their walkthroughs and doing things. And then out of all their videos, there's 200 videos. Only one of them has this weird deal where they're walking in a cemetery and suddenly they hear a scream and this like phantom mist moves past them. And then there's no more videos on it. It's not like they keep returning to that scene and
right.
doing it. That I find compelling. Somebody that's
Yes.
just out doing a video on fly fishing when he captures something moving, and that's the only piece of footage out of all of his videos before and after. Those I find more compelling. To me,
Absolutely.
that seems to be a much better judge of it. But again, if you want to be somebody that's willing to hook, line, and sinker somebody, that would be the way to do it, right? It's a one-off.
Right, but also how much work is that? Is having a full year of nothing, just boring videos, and then just one in the middle that's just amazing. That
But
no,
now
it,
you've got people tuning in all the time just in the hopes that you're going to capture that next piece of video,
that's true.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are, there now this is probably not a good example, but there's never going to be another Elvis, another Marilyn, another Prince. We have so many talented people now, we don't know which way to look, and we don't have, record companies and everything making us hyper focused in on a particular individual that they're going to make a whole bunch of money off of. So now this talent pool has been flattened out and is very, very widespread. And then you introduce AI into it, and which can, you can make movies, you can do these hoax videos, you can do all this stuff with it. In law enforcement, so IT specialists that do forensic work through any kind of computer stuff, any video or audio or whatever, a lot of that time it's focused in on some really pretty horrific crimes or white collar crimes. And those are the easiest ones to prove because you can follow everything, and it's going to be really hard for you to mask the coding. And when you're transferring money, because money needs to go to a particular place and needs to come from a particular place and that sort of thing. So a lot of these forensic guys that do any of the forensic work for computers aren't necessarily, they don't necessarily have degrees in IT. They go to an FBI academy and they go through particular training with a particular laptop computer that has particular software on it. And then after they go through their 2 or 3 weeks of training, then they go back to their local department. And that's what they do. Everybody that collects any kind of electronic evidence, they then send it over to the forensics department. And they then kind of validate that video through these computers, because these computers have the software that basically does it for them. They just know how to use the software. And so when I have people at the events that we go to, I have people that come up to me all the time. It's like, hey, what do you think this is? And they show me the video, and it's like, I used to tell people in my lectures that people would do that and don't do that. Cause I have no idea. I wasn't there. I don't have any equipment to be able to analyze it. I'm just going to look at it and go, yeah, that was a cool video. So then I would have a line of people laughing, going, hey, I want to show you a video. I want to show you a video. Everybody showed me a video. So now I don't even talk about it anymore. And it's rare that people come up, but they will ask. And it's like, there's no way I can pass judgment on it at this point.
Right.
Because it is so easy. With a $45 annual fee, you can go into Artistly, or you can go into any of these other AI companies and create these videos, and they look great. And and like you said, Dave, I'm kind of I remember getting comic books and looking at these things, as far as I'm older than you are, but you also did that. You get comic books and you get lost in these stories of this, amazing horror situation or UFO situation or whatever. And it takes you down that very creative path in your brain of imagination and wonder and all that. Well, we're drinking out of a fire hose at this point. We're getting our videos and things out of a fire hose, and you see political figures saying things that they never said because people are overdubbing their voices. We're getting UFOs that look amazing, and it's completely contrived. And
well,
I'm
even
with you.
Jeremy Corbell, who's big in the world of UAPs and ufology. I was watching a piece of footage today that they were showing, and there was this amazing craft, this disc, and it looked like something out of Independence Day, coming through the clouds and smoke.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal. But then Jeremy Corbell himself said, oh, and then we used AI to clean it up. And then that to me, well, if you're altering the evidence, it's no longer evidence, because is the AI going in and thinking it sees what you see, so it fills in those gaps?
Yeah.
And it's going off of that detail. So when even your forerunners in the field admit to using AI to clean things up, it makes me skeptical towards what is it we're truly acknowledging. We just have a few minutes left. I want to ask this question to both of you before we leave. Before you, there are 4 doors. Behind each door is the ultimate answer. Does God exist? Does Bigfoot and cryptids exist? Do aliens exist? Or do ghosts exist? Now, you know definitively, it doesn't mean that you're going to open the door and there's a Bigfoot. You'll open the door, there could be nothing but an empty closet, which means Bigfoot does not exist. Cryptids are not real. But that's your answer. You get to choose one door. What door would you open and why, Sweet Tea?
Do we get information? Like, let's say
I gave you the parameters. You open the
Wow.
door and you have without definitive.
Wow.
Again, I don't know how much more
Just
clear
say
I can
yes
make
or
it.
no answer is all we get.
Typical.
You
typical.
open the door. No. I want to know which one and why you would choose that door. It's a very simple deal. You open the door and you have the definitive answer to if it exists or not. But that is the only one that you'll get the answer for.
Okay, I'll answer. I would pick aliens because I don't need a door. I have full faith that all of these things exist, but I would maybe hope there would be more answers behind the alien door.
Okay. Everybody's always got to throw their contingent in. It's the
What?
simplest
Did you want me
question
to
on
just
planet
say
Earth.
alien door and then shut my mouth?
No,
I'm
as
trying
I
to
said,
add.
pick the door and then why specifically behind that door, not
And I
because
told you.
everything else exists. I just want to know why you chose that door and why was that one important to you, Greg?
Because I feel like there's more questions, but for me, behind aliens than anything else in that room, behind any other door.
Okay. Greg, what about you?
Aliens. There you go,
Aliens.
sweetie. Yeah, just looking at the Nazca lines, you're looking at all of this history, ice age structures that could tell us that there were actual big civilizations. It looks like maybe they had help, or maybe these were landing areas for aliens and stuff like that. I'm sure there's a lot of people going, why would they want the aliens? When it's you want to know if God exists or not. Well, maybe we're not supposed to know whether definitively that God exists, because part of that is faith, right? And so if God doesn't exist and I die, I'm just going to be done. If he does exist, it's going to be there, and there's going to be something else, and hopefully it's going to be great. Hopefully it's not going to be I have to spend eternity with my family. That's not a good choice.
Wow.
Ooh, Greg's family, we're sorry. You can send your hate mail directly to I am Greg at
Get
I'm no
roasted,
longer
Greg's
working.com. All right. So real
Aliens.
quickly then, very quickly, succinctly, you open that door and it's an empty closet. How does that make you feel about the wonder and excitement you had towards finding out if aliens exist, Greg?
Well, it would be a huge disappointment. I just can't imagine in a galaxy 300
I
trillion
understand that,
stars.
but I just wonder how that would impact you. How would that affect Greg Lawson going forward, opening that door and there's nothing there?
Yeah, it's a huge letdown, and I can't imagine. I would say bullshit.
Yeah.
That's what I would go.
Honestly,
No,
I'd
there
be
are
like-
two aliens. I'm going to argue with the door, right?
Yes, I'd be like,
Yeah.
someone made a
There's
mistake.
no
You put the sign
way
on the
there
wrong
can't
door.
be aliens. There's no way. There's too many things out there.
The
man.
door means nothing if it's a
It's
closet
stupid
behind
door.
it.
The door's stupid.
We hate
Dave.
this door.
Oh my god.
All right. Well, that's about it for this evening's show. It going off the rails. Crazy. My answer's simple. The door behind which the answer of God would be there. Because in my opinion, if God exists and there's definitive proof, and I open that door, everything else must exist. Everything else must exist. Because I, again, like Greg was alluding to, don't believe that it would be contained to just one planet, just one life form, one style. If God exists, so much more is out there that we're not even giving credit to. So that would be my take on it. I'd love to hear from you guys. And for those of you watching the video and watching the replay, or you're watching it live right now, after the show, go put in the comments. What would the door be for you, and why? And more importantly, what would you feel if it wasn't there? How would that affect and impact the rest of your life? I'd love to know that from you. Or if you're not comfortable leaving a public comment, feel free to email me, Dave at paranormal60.com, and we will carry on the conversation again. I told you I wasn't sure where I want to go with the news at this point because of the way things are being delivered, and poorly in many instances. It doesn't mean that this is the last that you will see of the Paranormal 60 news crew. I would like to continue to have them visit. I'm just not sure if we're going to do it on a more regular basis, or maybe we'll start to trim her back to one or twice a month, where we get a chance to come together when there's really some stories to sink our teeth into that aren't just rehashing stories that we've heard over and over and over again. And again, I'm open for your thoughts on this. Feel free to email me, dave@paranormal60.com, or place your messages here on the program guide. Love to hear from you. Thank you very much for that. It's always a pleasure to just sit down and talk. And I always plan on talking to these people. They are my friends. They're my contemporaries. I lean on them in so many different ways. And it'd be great if we can continue to meet up like this, but when there's something real to talk about and more to discuss. So that's kind of the place I'm leaning into at this point. So thank you very much for tuning in this evening, spending a little time with us here. And shoot me your thoughts on all types of aspects of this field. And what would you like us to cover more on this program? Maybe just even having just open dialogues like we did tonight. Love to hear from you. Why? Because your opinion matters. I care. We all care about what your thoughts are. And we all love hearing from you at the live events where people come up and tell us, I absolutely love your show. I love your Wednesday nights. I love when you have the team together. It was fun at this last event we were at in Glen Beulah. People were telling me how they had to pull over because they were listening to last Wednesday's show and had to pull over because they were laughing so hard they couldn't see. They had so many tears streaming down their face from the silliness and the fun that we were having. So we love that. We love the feedback. So keep letting us know what you think. And I've done this since the day I began almost 20 years ago. I adapt. We change. We shift things around. We move the cones, but it doesn't mean that what's going on is gone forever. It just means what more can we explore and what are some more interesting ways to do it. All right. Thank you all for tuning in, and may the darkness of this world be a little bit brighter with the information and the love and laughter that we share on this show. I'll be back with you Monday night. My special guest, Cindy Kaza, Shane Pittman, as we begin to unravel paranormal mysteries.